Aloha, malolele, and talofa. Welcome back to the Aloha EQ or Emotional Intelligence podcast, the place where emotional intelligence meets island wisdom. Today's episode is called Weaving Threads, Finding Harmony in the Tapestry of Two Worlds. Let me begin with a memory from my time in Tonga in the village of Ha'apai, where the sea whispers secrets to anyone who listens long enough. I knew a woman there named Luciane, married to a fisherman from a neighboring island. Luciane came from a family of weavers, known for their fine mats, or ta'ovala, that wrapped around the waist like a promise of respect. Her husband, though, was a carver, shaping wood into bowls and spears with hands calloused from the ocean. At first their home was a clash, her mats laid out neatly, his tools scattered like driftwood. She'd say, "Why must everything be so rough?" And he'd reply, "Why must everything be so tied down?" But one day, after a storm had torn through their fale, they sat together repairing what was broken. She wove a new edge to his carving bench, and he carved a handle for her loom. From then on, their children grew up playing on mats that told stories in wood. Luciane once told me, "I thought I was giving up my patterns for his shapes, but together we made something stronger, a net that catches more than fish." It reminds me of the words of the Tongan poet Konai Helu Thaman, who wrote in her collection, "You, the choice of my parents. In the blending of our bloods, we find the river that carries us all. Do not fear the current. It is the same water that nourished your ancestors and mine." Thaman's voice echoes the quiet truth that when we lean into the flow, what feels like loss can become a deeper current, one that sustains. Now let's drift to American Samoa, to the shores of Tutuila, where I spent time among families who gathered for fa'alave, those communal celebrations that bind everyone like the roots of a breadfruit tree. There was a couple I met at a village wedding, a Samoan woman named Leilani, whose family had deep roots in the ainga, and her husband from afar, a quiet man who'd come for work on the docks. At first, Leilani felt pulled, her days filled with preparing feasts, weaving ie tonga for the chiefs, while he longed for simpler evenings by the sea, just the two of them. "I've given so much to this way," she confided one afternoon over a bowl of palusami. "Where is the space for me?" But as the years passed, he began joining the preparations, learning to tie the senet ropes for the fale, and she started walking with him at dusk, sharing stories of the stars. Their children danced between both worlds, laughing at feasts and whispering dreams by the water. Leilani later said, "It wasn't about one giving up for the other. It was about planting new seeds in shared soil." I often think of a quote from the Samoan writer Albert Wendt in his novel, Leaves of the Banyan Tree. "We are all leaves on the same tree, swaying in the same wind. When one branch bends, the others must lean with it, or the whole may break." Wendt reminds us that harmony isn't found in standing still. It's in the gentle sway, the willingness to bend without snapping. Shifting now to the valleys of Hawaii, to the Big Island where the lava meets the sea in a dance of creation and renewal, I recall a story from a kupuna in Hilo, an elder named Auntie Keahi, who married a man from the mainland many moons ago. She was steeped in the ways of hula, movements that told of gods and genealogies, while he brought rhythms from distant cities, quick and sharp. Back then, their ohana gatherings felt lopsided, her family chanting oli at every meal, his preferring quiet talks over coffee. Auntie felt eclipsed, like she'd poured so much of her spirit into his world that her own light dimmed. I crossed oceans for him, she shared during a luau one evening, but who crosses for me? Yet over time, he learned the steps of the kahiko, and she discovered joy in his stories of far-off places. Their keiki grew with feet in both hands, friends from every horizon, loving all without question. Auntie Keahi would say, with a smile like the morning sun, "The lava hardens strongest where it meets the cool water. That's where new land is born." These tales bring to mind the wisdom of Queen Liliuokalani, the last sovereign of Hawaii, who in her book Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen reflected, "In the union of hearts, there is no division of lands. We must cherish the bridge between us, for it is built of love's own hands." Her words invite us to see that bridges aren't one-way paths. They're meant for crossing back and forth, each journey strengthening the span. Finally, let's journey to Aotearoa, New Zealand, to the marae of Waitangi, where the winds carry echoes of treaties and ties. I knew a wanau there, a Maori woman named Aroha, wed to a man from the Pacific Islands, his roots in voyaging canoes. Aroha's world was the Wakapapa, the genealogies recited like rivers flowing to the sea, while he was the moana, the open ocean calling him to kin far and wide. When they returned to her Wanua after years away, the pool grew strong, him drawn to gatherings of song and service, her yearning for the quiet rhythms of her own iwi. "I've woven so much of myself into his sails," she whispered one night by the fire. "Now how do I anchor my own?" But in time they found a rhythm. He joined her in the Powiri welcomes. She sailed with him to island feasts. Their tamariki embraced it all, hearts wide as the horizon. Aroha once shared, "It's not about choosing sides of the waka. It's about paddling together, even when the waves push differently." This echoes the thoughts of the Maori scholar Ranginui Walker, who in his writings on cultural bridges said, "In the meeting of peoples, we discover not loss, but the expansion of self. Hold space for both shores, and the river between will flow with grace." Walker's insight gently urges us to expand, to make room for the ebb and flow. As I reflect on these stories, from Ha'apai's weavers to Tutuila's feasts, Hilo's lava islands to Waitangi's marae, I see a common thread, the quiet work of reciprocity. It's not always spoken. Sometimes it's in the small acts, like sharing a meal from one tradition or learning a song from another. When silence falls, perhaps that's the invitation to listen deeper, to the heart's own wisdom, to the ways we can invite each other back to the center. And in the words of Epeli Hauofa, once more, from his essay, Our Sea of Islands, we are the ocean, and the ocean flows through us all. In its vastness, there is room for every current, every wave, to find its place without drowning another. If there's a gentle path forward, it might be in those small invitations, a shared walk where stories from both sides unfold, a celebration that honors the simple alongside the grand. In this weaving, no thread is lost, only strengthened in the pattern. Mari ora, life to all of us in every weave we create. I have had the opportunity to go to Ha'apai. We lived in Tutuila. We went to Hilo, where the volcanoes flow lava, and to New Zealand. When I tell these stories, they come from the heart. I think that we all need to have an open mind and love for all people, learn from everyone that we meet. In closing, I'd just like to apologize if I pronounced some of the words wrong. I'm trying. Aloha.